I hope everybody's enjoying their food. And it seems that every single week that I come here, the world has changed. It's crazy. So, you ever see these movies where you have like these alien ships flying in the sky and like life is continuing and nobody's talking about it, but eventually the aliens take over and what?
The drones.
iRobot. Yeah. So it's really weird. What's happening with these drones? What is that about? It's You all know that it's not a foreign power, because if it was a foreign power, they wouldn't be using FAA approved communications, transmissions, and lights. It's America, but the question is why are they doing this, and all types of theories around what these drones are about. Why is the military sending drones? I myself saw the drones. It was about 3 weeks ago. I was walking here in Manhattan Beach. I go for a nightly walk. And we actually saw what looked like a drone. And we're like, oh wow, look, it's a drone in the sky. It was a kind of small red-green light. But then it suddenly, it came closer and it was like, wow, that's really big. And then it was like huge. So, but back then I didn't think of it because it was like, okay, so I saw a huge drone. I didn't realize something is up. But yeah, something is up. So what is going on? I don't know. It's really weird. Any theories?
Yeah, they're looking for the missing COVID vaccines.
They're looking for the missing. That's a good theory, by the way. If they're looking for that, that would be great.
I heard somebody said that they're trying to kill all the crops and everything when Trump gets into power.
Oh yeah, like to create a crisis.
Yeah.
The latest was the radioactive material, right?
That's the most plausible explanation. Unfortunately, that's a plausible explanation because that would explain why they're doing it at night. Because in the daytime you have the radiation from the sun, but at night when there was no sun, so if there's any radioactive material, it would be easier to detect with these drones. That would be plausible. But again, I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. The government is doing something, and what they're doing is not clear. But you all understand there is no way that drones are coming from Iran or North Korea or China or Russia, and the government is just letting them fly around for a month. Like, no, that's not. What? No, the balloon. You're right.
There 6 months.
Right, the balloon. You're right, brother. They did, but here they're claiming. Meaning, they never claim with the balloon. Oh, we don't know what that is. Like, okay, it was a Chinese balloon, and then they said, well, we can't shoot it now, but it's a Chinese balloon. Here they're saying we don't know what it is. And it's like, really? You don't know what it is? So shoot down a drone and tell us what it is. Like, you're the government. They know what it is. They
So the guy Kirby,
Yeah.
they interviewed him, and he's swearing up and down he doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, no,
He's lying, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So when they find out they knew what it was all along, then where's his credibility?
The question
Even
is,
though it's
what are they
already-
doing? The real question is, what is the government doing? And that's really mysterious. It could be just a psyop, psychological operation to see how people react to this. I don't know. But it's certainly weird that every single week the world is changing so much, like all these things happening. So maybe we're getting closer to Mashiach. I don't know.
Get the door.
He's out the door?
No, someone's here.
Oh, maybe it's a Mashiach. I don't know. Okay. All right. So let's start. And as I said, we're finishing the chapter soon, so we're going to be looking to do a new topic. So I would welcome ideas regarding the new topic, so that we can think about it together. What would be the next thing we want to study? But for now, Amarav Kalu Kol HaKisin. So we're 97b 4 at the bottom of the page where the gray bar is. You'll see there in the middle. Amarav Kalu Kol HaKisin. So it's a very interesting mahloket between Rav and Shemuel. Let me tell you that there was two in the days of the Babylonian Hachamim, which was after the destruction of the second temple. The rabbis, the Hachamim, went to Babylonia, and there was two major centers of learning. One was Surah, and the other was Nehav De'ah. Surah, the Rosh Yeshiva, there was Rav, and that's one opinion. We're going to be reading the opinion of Rav in a moment. And Shemuel was the Rosh Yeshiva of Nehar De'ah, and he expresses a different opinion. Now, just so you know, these Hachamim lived about 100 years, or maybe 110, 120 years after the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. And they're talking about when the Mashiach is coming. It's kind of interesting if you think about it, because we're 2,000 years later, almost 2,000 years later, and we're still waiting. And they're talking about it back then, and they had a philosophical debate. And the debate is as follows. Now I'm going to read it. Amar Rav. Rav was one of the Hachamim. As I said, he was the Rosh Yeshiva in Surah. And he says, Kalo kol hakisin. All the calculations of the Mashiach is supposed to come in this year, the Mashiach is supposed to come up, this happens. All the calculations can come and they can go. ואין הדבר תלוי אלא בתשובה ומעשים טובים. The only thing that will bring the Mashiach are two things. Number one, teshuvah. Teshuvah means we have to repent from our sins. Uma'asim tovim. And number two, perform good actions. Do misvot. In other words, according to Rav, all these calculations are useless. They don't mean a thing. They're a waste of time. Just make teshuvah and the Mashiach comes. There's a famous legend that if the Jewish people were to observe 2 Shabbatot, the Mashiach would automatically come. Just observe 2 Shabbatot, and the Mashiach would come. That legend is predicated upon the idea of Rav. That you don't have to count. You don't need 700 years, 2,000 years, 7,000 years, 20, whatever it is. Chodesh Nisan, not Chodesh Nisan. Just make teshuvah. It's funny, I had a goy by me this Shabbat, and we're talking about Shabbat, and he wanted to be Shomer Shabbat, he wanted to experience Shabbat, and so the funny thing is, Shabbat afternoon we have a delicious meal, and we go to sleep, and this person told me he never, first time in his life he ever felt like he needed to sleep Saturday afternoon was this week. We had a very nice meal, of course. And he says, I got to take a nap. I said, I'm taking a nap. He said, you can take a nap also, I don't care. He said, I never had this Saturday. I said, what happened? He told me, what happened? I said, you probably have a spark of Judaism in your Shabbat. It's Shabbat, you want to rest, you want to relax. It's a beautiful thing. Nothing more beautiful than Shabbat, where you really, really just get to completely, relax physically, spiritually, mentally. But anyway, that's what Rav says. So Rav says, just make teshuvah. The rest is a waste of time. Shemuel disagrees. Shemuel says, I'm sorry, I lost the place. Here it is. Shemuel amar, Tayo la'abel sheya'amod be'evlo. Shemuel disagrees. He says, no, there will come a time where even if we are not worthy, notwithstanding the fact that we are not worthy, the Mashiach will come. How so? And so he says, Dayola Avel, if a person is in mourning, and when somebody loses a loved one, very painful, very devastating, and losing a loved one is a type of kaparat avonot, right? Now, how many days do you have? You have 7 days of avlut, there's 30 days after that. If it's parents, it's going to continue for a year. So that whole process of avlut is a process that is kaparat avonot for the avel. Right, kaparat amonot for the avel, it's expiation of the sins, and afterwards the avel is at a higher level spiritually. So he says the same thing with the Jewish people. The Jewish people have gone through exiles, have gone through various trials and tribulations and tragedies, and once we undergo the number of exiles and tribulations and whatever the number of years of suffering is, that's it. Even if we didn't make teshuvah, we would still be worthy of redemption by virtue of the fact that we suffered so much and underwent all these horrible things. We still would be worthy of redemption, and therefore the issue of making teshuvah is less important for Shemuel. Okay, so that's a mahloket. And what we're going to be studying today is we're going to be reading different pesukim. Some pesukim support Rav, some pesukim support Shemuel. But that was the machloket, Rav and Shemuel. Again, just to summarize, Rav says, Kalu kol hakisin. It doesn't matter how many calculations you make and how many years pass. None of that matters, because at the minute we make teshuvah, the Mashiach will come. And Shemuel says, no, the only thing that matters is the number of years that pass, and then you will automatically be redeemed. Ketana'eh. Who knows what the word ketana'eh means? What is the word ketana'eh? So the machloket Rav and Shemuel is a machloket that took place during the days of Babylonia among the Hachamim, that era was called the era of the Emoraim. The era of the Emoraim is the era of the Hachamim of the Gemara. But before that era was the era of the Tanaim. The era of the Tanaim is the era of the Hachamim, starting with Hillel and Shammai, and the students of Hillel and Shammai going down several generations to the Rabbi Akiva. And these are the Hachamim who are in the Mishnayot. So, Lema Ketanaim means that this mahloket that is being expressed by Rav and Shemuel, and they were Emoraim, is actually an earlier mahloket among the Tanaim. You understand what Lema Ketanaim means? Lema Ketanaim, shall we say that this mahloket with Rav and Shemuel regarding whether the Mashiach comes only based on Teshuvah or will come based on the number of years of suffering, is a mahloket that took place in the earlier generation, in the days of the Tanaim. And here it is. Rabbi Eliezer ben Kanus was one of the Tanaim. He was the teacher of Rabbi Akiva. He says as follows: Im Israel osim teshuvah nigalim. If the Jewish people make teshuvah, they will be redeemed. Ve'im lav en nigalim. If they don't make teshuvah, doesn't matter how many years, what the calculations are, what the Zohar says, what the Midrash says, none of that matters. En nigalim. What does en nigalim mean? They will not be redeemed. Who said that opinion before? That was Rav. Amarav kalu kol hakisin. Exactly the opinion of Rav.
So nobody will be redeemed. Wait, sorry, what was the condition?
No, he says the only condition is teshuvah.
Okay.
Teshuvah ma'asim tovim. Right? Im Yisrael osim teshuvah. If the Jewish people repent, this is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, and it was also the opinion of Rav, right? So if the Jewish people make teshuvah, nigalim. Ve'im lav and nigalim. According to him, yes. According to this opinion, it's a machloket. But Rav and Rabbi Eliezer, they're aligned. Rabbi Eliezer lived hundreds of years before Rav. He was in the days of the Tanaim. Rav lived in the days of the Amoraim, but they both expressed the same opinion.
Is that where you got it from, you think?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry? Maybe, but it's not clear. The Gemara doesn't answer that question. Well,
Is it about the teshuvah or it's about ultimately the mitzvot? Either you do bad things and suffering happens so much that it draws you to do teshuvah, which means you do mitzvot, or you don't do those bad things, you just follow the law, and then you're worthy of Mashiach.
it's both. That's why he says teshuvah and ma'asim tovim. Rav, when he says it, Rav says teshuvah, meaning abstain from doing the bad things. If you're doing bad things, repent. But ma'asim tovim, and do positively good things, right? Do positively. At the same time. Exactly, meaning it's not enough to just say, I'm not going to eat non-kosher, but I'll be an evil person to my neighbor, I'll be an evil person to my, God forbid.
You can rip somebody off in business, rip everybody off,
Yeah,
and then give tzedakah and do chesed, and that's okay?
no, exactly, exactly.
So he's saying it's a national, it's a personal teshuvah, or it's both?
Both, meaning he's saying that the Jewish people, we have to be a nation, we have to be a nation that represents the Torah, right? That's what we have to be, and that's what we're supposed to be. So you go to Israel, according to Rav, Rav and Rabbi Eliezer. You go to Israel today, so let's say they're not all Shomer, not everybody is Shomer Shabbat. So he would say, you're not Shomer Shabbat. You're eating non-kosher. I don't know what you have, whatever it is. So you're preventing the Mashiach. But the other opinion, Shemuel says, no, eventually the Mashiach is going to come. Whether we make teshuvah, don't make teshuvah, at the end the Mashiach is going to come. And this is the opinion of, let's read the next opinion. So we read Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer was a Tanna. Amar le Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Yehoshua was another teacher of Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua, they lived in the same period of time. And many times in the days of the Mishnayot, they used to have a machloket. You see Rabbi Eliezer says one opinion in the Mishnah, and Rabbi Yehoshua says another opinion. So here, this isn't a machloket on the halacha. How do you put on tefillin, right? For example, what's allowed and not allowed on Shabbat, for example. This is a conceptual machloket, and he says as follows. Amale Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Yehoshua argues with Rabbi Eliezer, and he says, no. He
was a teacher also of Rabbi Akiva, again? This one?
Student.
Yes, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua, they were the generation before Rabbi Akiva.
Oh.
Yeah, yes, they were the generation before Rabbi Akiva. right? So there was Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was around in the days of the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. His Talmidim was Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua. One of their Talmidim was Rabbi Akiva, right? Okay, so Amar Rabbi Yehoshua. So Rabbi Yehoshua says something interesting. He says as follows. It's a little different than what Shemuel said. Shemuel said, Dayo la'avel shi'amod be'evlo. It's enough for the mourner to undergo the period of mourning. Once you undergo the period of mourning, your avonot were forgiven. So he says similarly, once the Jewish people get to a certain number of years of suffering, of exile, that's going to be enough. Listen to what Rabbi Yehoshua says. Rabbi Yehoshua says something similar, but not identical to Shemuel. He says as follows. Im enosin teshuvah, if the Jewish people don't do teshuvah, and nigalin, he says, I agree with you, Rabbi Eliezer. I agree. They won't be redeemed. But, so what's going to happen? He says, okay, now there comes a point in time where they're supposed to be redeemed. And once a point in time where they're supposed to be redeemed comes, at that point in time, God can't allow it that the Geulah is not coming. He can't allow that. So, but then he make the teshuvah. He says, no. Ela hakadosh baruch hu ma'amidin lahem melech shegezerotav kashot kehaman. So what's God going to do in that case? God is going to bring a king, and this king is going to be evil like Haman, like with Ahashverosh and Haman. Ve'yisrael osin teshuvah, and the Jewish people will automatically make teshuvah. Machaziran meutav, and because they made teshuvah, God is going to be able to bless them and bring the Mashiach. So it's like what happened in Megillat Esther. So in Megillat Esther, the Jewish people were in Babylonia. Now, God told Jeremiah before he destroyed the Beit HaMikdash that you're going to have to count 70 years, and after you count 70 years, there's going to be the redemption. So now what happened? The Jewish people are in Babel, comes Ahashverosh, and Ahashverosh was a bad king. But why was he a bad king? Because he had a bad advisor, Haman. Okay, why did that happen? Why did Ahashverosh have this anti-Semite advising him? So now here's the thing.
But he didn't know.
What do you mean, who didn't know?
Achashverosh didn't know till later.
Okay, fair enough. Good, you're right. But what was the background? Why did God put us, the Jewish people, in a predicament where, okay, he didn't know, and Haman was manipulating him, and so what happened is that the Jewish people, in the days of Megillat Esther, they lost the way. The Avodah Zarah. When a person had to call his child a name, he didn't call him Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. He called him Paul, Peter, James, or Mordechai, which is Marduk, a name of an idol, Esther, which is Astarte, a name of a goddess, right? So you see the names, they speak for themselves. The names of the Jews, and there was a famous professor, Professor Bickerman, I met him when I was very young. My father used to teach in the Jewish Theological Seminary, which is today, it's like they're off the deep end. They all became very religious. My father left. So what happened is my father, when he came to America, alav shalom, so he went to Chacham Matlub Abadi, and he spoke to him. He said, I can teach in NYU, I can teach in the Jewish Theological Seminary. I don't know if anybody heard of Chacham Matlub Abadi. He was a very big rabbi, the greatest Halabi rabbi that ever came to the community. So he wrote the book of Shelot Teshuvot. So my father was asking him, where should I teach? Should I go to YU? Should I go to JTS? So Chacham Matlub told him, listen, go to the JTS, because there were very great scholars back then, great Chachamim, who themselves were religious and Orthodox. And my father, obviously being religious and Orthodox, he wasn't sure, so he said, no, go there, go to the JTS. And my father ended up teaching there, and he met many great Chachamim there. So one of the great scholars was Professor Bickerman, and when I was young, I met him. I just want to give you that story, how I ended up meeting Professor Bickerman. Anyway, so Professor Bickerman, he writes in his book that they look archaeologically at the names of the children. It wasn't just Mordechai and Esther. All the Jewish children were given the names of pagans, right? So you see, it was complete assimilation. But here's a problem. Now, according to Shemuel says, Tayo la'avel sheya'amod be'evlo, right? He says, once the time passes, and the avel goes through a certain number of years, that's it. Now, in this case, how many years did God tell Jeremiah? 70 years. But the people, they were assimilated. So what are you going to do? How are you going to do this? If you're following the Shita of Shemuel, that after 70 years they have to be redeemed no matter what, now you got a problem. You got to redeem them. They're idolaters. They get returned to Israel, do idolatry, get kicked out again. So how does that help? You understand the problem? All right. So now he says no. So Rabbi Yehoshua, he introduces a subtlety that we didn't see in the words of Shemuel. Shemuel just said, "Dayol la'aver she'amod be'evlo." Rabbi Yehoshua says, no, it's not that simple. Instead, God, what he's going to do when he sees that the time is coming for the Geulah, but the Jewish people are not worthy, what he's going to do is he's going to bring an evil king, and this evil king will do anti-Semitic legislation, and the Jews are going to be terrified. And because of the terror, they're going to make teshuvah. And because they made teshuvah, now God can say, okay, everybody to Israel. And then when Ahashverosh died, the son of Esther and Ahashverosh, Esther was Jewish. So that means that the son of Esther and Ahashverosh was Jewish. His name was Daryavish. Daryavish, the son of Ahashverosh, he gives the order to the Jewish people, they can continue building the Beit HaMikdash. Right? Because what happened is when Cyrus became king, Cyrus was a few kings before Ahashverosh, he allowed the Jews to start building the Beit HaMikdash. But then they stopped the building of the Beit HaMikdash. They told Ahashverosh, look, the Jewish people, they're nasty people, they're going to rebel against you, don't let them build the Beit HaMikdash. They stopped it. Then when Ahashverosh married Esther, and then the name of the Jewish people went up, and the Jewish people made teshuvah, right? When did they make teshuvah? Because it was anti-Semitism. Every single Jew was going to be killed by Minan. So they got terrified, so they all made teshuvah. Now that they made teshuvah, God was able to fulfill the promise of Jeremiah, and the son of Ahashverosh and Esther, who was a Jew, his name was Daryavish, he said the Jews could continue building the Beit HaMikdash. So you see how God did it? He had to follow the numbers. He couldn't ignore the fact that he told Jeremiah, Jews are going to be redeemed, but they're not making teshuvah. He forced them to make teshuvah by scaring them. By the way, a lot of Jews in Israel after October 7th, there was some of that. There were some Jews who really realized, they realized that we're Am Yisrael, that we're the children of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and there's a lot of Jews who are returning to the idea of who we are as a nation, who we are as a people, right?
They don't do Avodah Zarah, they just have no religion.
Right, exactly. So there's a guy, he's a professor in this show. I'll just give you one example, but I'm sure there's many examples. So there's a show in Israeli TV where they have like 4 traditional people, religious kind of, and Shomer Torah, Shomer Shabbat, religious, very, very pro-Israel, very right-wing. And then they have this one guy who's a leftist, professor.
Of course.
A professor, left-wing. So after October 7th, this left-wing professor, he says, I'm not an atheist anymore. Like people are like, why not an atheist? I'm just not an atheist. I just believe. I believe. I see what's happening. I see how the Jewish people are defeating the enemies. Professor, regular professor, liberal, not some religious guy, meaning a liberal, secular. He says, I'm an atheist. He said over and over in the show, I'm an atheist. Suddenly he's like, I believe in God. Right? So you see how...
But to what extent?
Okay, fair enough. So to the extent that today, if you're an intelligent person and the brand of religion around you is like, okay, so to what extent we're not going to fault him. But the fact that he said, I believe in God, and he's trying, and people are trying.
It's not teshuvah, it's just believing in God.
No, it's a declaration.
It's a level.
It's a level. It's a connection with the Jewish destiny. We're the children of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And the first step is you feel that connection. You feel there's something special about us. You get it. You feel it, right? I agree. It's not the end point, but you see how things are kind of like. By the way, after what happened in the Syrian Hermon, people are like, what is going on? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, we got the Hermon. What? The highest point. By the way, the highest point in the Hermon is strategically very valuable. So it's tremendous. And I think we're like, I believe we're something like 22 miles from Damascus now. We control. Or I wish they took over Damascus. Wouldn't that be great? Would anybody want to visit Damascus if they took over? What?
A bunch of Arabs.
Well, yeah, hopefully, right. I got it. But anyway, it's
Change the national Syrian anthem?
two.
I don't know.
I
I think
they
they
mu-
have a new one because I know the old one.
Listen, the reality is that you actually know the old one?
Yeah.
Oh, how does it go?
My brother Jack used to sing it every morning. It goes something like this.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, Hazaku Baruch. I think, yeah. Use it, hey, use it for, next time we do Ashab, use it for Kaddish, you know? All right. Shalom, do me a favor, get me a bottle of water for my thing. No, like just to be no. But just to be realistic, the people who took over Syria, they're Sunnis, and many of them are Al Qaeda. This guy Jolani, Ibn Muhammad, Ibn I don't know whatever. Like, these are crazy people, but they're easier to handle than Iran, because Iran was truly a threat. These are a bunch of terrorist thugs. So I'm not saying they're not a threat, but it's a much lower threat.
Took out all their weapons, so they're not really a threat.
Exactly. So Israel, that's why Israel is bombing Damascus like crazy. America, by the way, was bombing all the weapons depot in the north. Israel was bombing them in Damascus. So they're crazy Majnounin, but they're not like Iran, which has nuclear and all these crazy arms. So much better situation. But still, there's still challenges. I don't want to talk about it now. Who? First Houthis, then Iran, Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay. All right, so let's continue. So you get the idea. Kalu kol hakesin. Okay. Tanya idach. There's another baraita that expresses a similar. So now we understand the concept. Thank you very much. We understand the concept. How Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua disagree. Rabbi Eliezer says they have to make teshuvah. Rabbi Yoshua says no. When the time comes, if the Jewish people didn't make teshuvah, God will force us to make teshuvah. So there is recorded an argument that took place between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. Now, what is the ultimate source of truth for the Jewish mind? The verses in the Torah. So what they're going to be doing in this argument is they're going to be going verse by verse, and they're going to try. Each one is going to try to bring verses to support his position. So we're going to look at it now. Tanya idach. So this beraita is, again, it's recording a discussion, a debate that took place. You know, sometimes you have the Oxford Debate Society. So this is the debate society of the yeshiva, probably in Yavne, and we're going to read it now. Tanya idach. Rabbi Eliezer omer. Im Yisrael osim teshuvah nigalim. So Rabbi Eliezer again is of the opinion that if the Jewish people make teshuvah, they will be redeemed. But if they do not make teshuvah, they will not be redeemed. And he brings a proof. He brings a proof from the pasuk in Yirmiyah Hanavi. The pasuk in Yirmiyah Hanavi says as follows: Shuvu banim shovavim erpa meshubotechem. Shuvu banim shovavim. Banim shovavim means like children who are naughty or that kind of like are rebelling against their parents. Children, O sons that you rebelled, return. Meaning, stop acting like this. And if you do that, erpa meshuvotechem, I will heal you from your afflictions. Meaning, God is saying, the children of Israel, they're like my sons, you're like my children. A father is always waiting for his children. The father never turns down the children, right? The father wants his children, even when he gets angry, he wants his children to make teshuvah. He wants his children to behave. So God is telling the Jewish people, I never really forsake you. Right? I'm never really going to forsake you, but rather, I just want you to return back home and act properly. And as soon as you act properly, I will heal you from all your afflictions, meaning all the suffering of the exiles will end. That's Rabbi Eliezer. Again, Rabbi Eliezer says, what does it depend on? Teshuvah. And it doesn't matter when it happens. There's no too soon. There's no too late. Whenever it happens, it will happen. Amar Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua disagrees. Again, this is the debate society, not the Oxford Debate Society, the Yavne Debate Society. Amar Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua says, V'halo kevar ne'emar. I'll bring you another pasuk. There's another pasuk. This pasuk is in Isaiah, and this pasuk says as follows. I'm going to read the pasuk now for you.
He doesn't have to refute the other pasuk? Meaning
No, everybody's
pasuk.
we're going to later on. We're going to see if there's a resolution. But the point is, bring a pasuk to support your position. You brought one pasuk to support yours. I'll bring another pasuk to support mine. Right? So he says as follows. The pasuk in Yeshaya Hanavi says, "Hinam nimkartem." Velo bechesef tgaelu. when you were sold into exile, almost like sold into slavery, or you went into exile, when the Romans took over Israel, Judea, many Jews, they were taken to Rome and they were sold as slaves, right? So it says, Hinam nim kaltem. You were sold into exile or into slavery, into affliction for nothing. Velo bechesed tigaelu. And when you are redeemed, it's not going to be for money that you are redeemed. Now, the peshat of the pasuk Hinam nim kaltem means you sold yourself for something valueless. You know what's valueless? Avodah zarah, idols. So the peshat is you sold yourself for nothing, for the stupidity of avodah zarah. You're selling yourself. Like, why would you do that? What is wrong with you? What benefit do you get from avodah zarah? But then it says, "Velo bechesed tigaelu." But at the end, when you're redeemed, it's not going to be for money. What does it mean not going to be for money? Meaning, I'm not waiting for you to make teshuvah. I'm not waiting for you to pay the debt. Hashem is saying, when the time comes for the Geula, the time will come for the Geula. So Hinam nim kaltem, and it continues the Gemara, ba'avodat kuchavim. You made avodah zarah, stupidity. Why did you do avodah zarah? It's the most nonsensical thing in the world, but you destroyed yourselves. Velo bechesed tigaelu. When the pasuk says, and you're not going to be redeemed in money, it means lo b'tshuva ma'asim tovim. We could have redeemed ourselves to God and say, look, God, we made teshuvah. We're paying our debt. We're paying our debt. We're stopping this nonsense. He says, no. Lo b'tshuva ma'asim tovim. When I want to redeem you, I'll figure out a way to redeem you. So here we see the two opposing sides. Again, imagine you're in the yeshiva. There's a Eliezer on one side, a Yeshua on the other side. It's a debate. The challenge of the debate is bring a pasuk to support your position. So Rabbi Eliezer brought the pasuk to support his position. Shuvu barim shovavim, right? Return, and if you return, I'll cure you. And Rabbi Yehoshua brings his position. Hinam nim kaltem. It doesn't matter when, how, what. Velo bechesed tigaelu. We will always be redeemed by God. So that's one. So now they go back to who? They go back to Rabbi Eliezer. So Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Eliezer tells Rabbi Yehoshua, V'halo keval ne'emar, shuvu elai. The pasuk says, this is in the Navi Malachi. The pasuk says, shuvu elai, return to me, says God. Ve'ashuva alechem. And if you return to me, I will return to you. Meaning God is saying, the door is always open. But what's the key to the door? What key do you have to use? Teshuvah. So see, that's proof. Teshuvah. Rabbi Yehoshua says, I'll bring you another pasuk. I'm going to bring you a pasuk in the Navi Yirmiyah. And the pasuk in the Navi Yirmiyah says, Ki anochi ba'alti bachem. ולקחתי אתכם, אחד מעיר ושניים ממשפחה, והבאתי אתכם ציון. It says in the future, when it's time for the Geula, אנוכי בעלתי את בכם means I was angry at you, I was repelled by you. That's אנוכי בעלתי בכם. It's not clear what it means. Some people say אנוכי בעלתי, give a different explanation. I'm bringing the explanation of the father of the Radak. The father of the Radak was Rabbi David Kimchi. He lived about a generation after Harambam in southern Spain. His father was Rabbi Yosef Kimchi. And Rabbi Yosef Kimchi says, Ki ba'alti bachem means, I was angry at you. I was angry at you. But when the time for the Geulah comes, you know how the Geulah is going to be? Velakachti etchem ehad me'ir. There could be one person, one Jew, in some, I don't know, some crazy faraway place. The only Jew left. And what is this Jew thinking? God will do a miracle for the Jews in New York. God will do a miracle for the Jews in LA. One Jew in some town in, I don't know, Asia. Does anybody know who this Jew is? They answered, yes. God knows who this Jew is. And he said, even if there's one Jew in a city, I'm going to find that Jew. It could be only two Jews in a particular family. Why does it mean two Jews in a family? Everybody is assimilated. They married Goyim. They married Goyot. This person is a Goy. All the family is Goyim. It happened to be that this particular person, his mother was a Jew, and her mother was a Jew, and her mother was a Jew, so he's Jewish. Everybody around him is Goyim. How is God going to find that person? God is going to find two people. From a family, everybody's goyim, and he's going to find the Jew, and he's going to bring him and he will figure out a way to bring him to Zion. But I believe that many of the people who convert, they are actually the tzeitza'im of Jews, right? Because there was many Jews who were forced, let's say in the days of the Spanish Inquisition, many Jews converted against their will. Right? There's many Jews, goyim, who are actually Jews, right? So God is saying, I'm going to find these Jews, and even if it's just one Jew in an entire city, I will bring about a series of events so that this Jew ends up in Israel, and he's a Jew in Israel. So God cares about every single one of us, without exception. It doesn't say if he makes teshuvah. It says I'm gonna find him. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam shekol yamim baro.
Like you said, even if just one, the hashkacha.
Yes, exactly. Even one Jew, the hashkacha perati. Well, they used to be, because my father wrote this book on the conversos, on the they call them moranos. We don't call them moranos because it's an insult. So we use conversos. My father wrote a famous book. It was called The Shadow of History, and people used to reach out to him from different places in the world, and they said, "We think we're Jewish. What do we do?" Like, people used to reach out to him, and he said, "Listen, they wanted to convert." He says, "If you want to convert, the only place you convert is go to Eretz Israel. Go to Israel." And I met some of these Jews. I was once in the Kotel. And I met one of these Jews who was from one of these places in South America, and he converted, and he was talking to me. And I realized it was probably Mitza'eh. He doesn't even know it himself. He was from Brazil. Now what happened is, when the Jews ran away from Spain, they went to Recife, Brazil, and then Yamach Shemam, the Spanish Inquisition. But the Catholics were always anti-Semites, like just enough of the nonsense. You see the Pope? He desecrated his own God. I mean, is he not embarrassed? You saw the Pope visiting the Vatican, the nativity scene in the. Okay, so this is the Pope, the current Pope Francis. Okay, Pope Francis. There's a nativity scene in the Vatican, and Jesus has a kafia around him. I mean, it's your God. You hate the Jews so much that you're desecrating your God and dressing up Jesus like Hamas terrorists? I mean, I don't know, there's people I don't like, but I'm not going to desecrate Bar Minan. Would any of us desecrate the Aron HaKodesh to make a point? No, of course not. He's dressed in a kafiyeh. I mean, forget about the fact that it's historically, the ignorance is baffling, but it's the hatred against Jews, so that the Catholics always hated the Jews. We can't forget this. Never forget this. So when we ran away from Spain because we didn't want to be killed, actually tortured to death by the Catholics, they were sadistic. They were lowlives. I mean, real, just lowlives. I can't even tell you. I saw pictures in my house of what the Inquisition used to do. Anyway, so they ran away to Recife, Brazil. The Spaniards, the Catholics came after them, and they instituted the Inquisition in Brazil. And they destroyed the entire Jewish community. Jews were burnt alive, horrible stories, many of them had to convert. So now, getting back to the Kotel, I was in the Kotel and I was praying Mincha, and I was a Hazan, and this person comes to me, and it ended up he was a convert from Brazil. And he was very happy to meet me, and he enjoyed the Hazanut, and he wanted some advice, and I realized in my mind, I don't know how, but it just came to me. I realized he's from the Anusim, he probably was Jewish, and he had a Jewish neshama, and somehow he ended up in Israel, and thinking about this pasuk, that the pasuk says, "Velakachti etchem echad me'ir," one Jew. If it's one Jew, I'm going to turn the world around to save this Jew. V'hebeti etchem Sion. I was just thinking of this pasuk, meeting that one Jew. He was a goy, but he was a Jew. See what I'm saying? So many of these goyim, not everybody is a goy. Not everybody that converts is a goy. And I really believe that Hashem has a way of causing people to convert and return to Am Yisrael. Okay. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer. So again, the Rabbi Eliezer is the opinion that without teshuvah it's all meaningless, and we have to make teshuvah. There's no other way to bring the Geulah. So he brings another pasuk. He brings this time a pasuk from Yeshaya Hanavi. And here's a pasuk from Yeshaya. He says as follows: Beshuvah vanachat tivashe'un. You will be redeemed when you are on the right road. Now you're going nicely in the road of teshuvah. Shuvah means milashon teshuvah, meaning when you return to God calmly and nicely, God will immediately redeem you from your tribulations. So that's Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yoshua answers Rabbi Eliezer. He says, he says, you're bringing me the prophet Isaiah. I'll bring you the prophet Isaiah. I'm going to bring you another pasuk from the prophet Isaiah that says as follows: Ko Amar Adonai Goel Israel. Thus says God, the Redeemer of Israel. Kedosho. Kedosho means the Holy One of Israel. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one we say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh to, right? We say Kadosh about who? About Goel Israel. We say Baruch Atah Hashem Ga'al Israel every day, right? So God is the one who redeems the Jewish people, and He is our Holy One. God says, I'm speaking libzo nefesh. I'm speaking to a person whose soul is bazui, is low. When you're talking to a person whose soul is low, you should be speaking to a person who's a tzaddik. You should be speaking to a person like Eliyahu Navi. You should be speaking to a mekubah. What do you mean you're speaking to libzo nefesh? No, I want to speak to I want to find that Jew whose soul is low, whose soul is in the worst place. Nimtai go. I want to find the person who's mamash mito'av, right? I'm sorry. Yeah. Le'eved moshelim. I want to find that person who's almost like at the level of a slave in terms of being a slave to bad rulers, meaning you allow others to rule you and to make you go in a bad way, right? Melachim yir'u vakamu sarim ve'ishtachavu. When the kings see, they're going to rise up at this low person. Sarim ve'ishtachavu, the princes or the ministers of the government, they will bow down before this person, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to redeem this person. I'm going to take this Jewish person whose soul is all the way in the abyss, in the darkness, and I'm going to lift up this person so high, even though he's not worthy. And the kings of the world are going to see him, and they're going to be in awe, and they're going to bow down before this Jew who was, yesterday he was a nobody, and now suddenly God lifted it up. Mamash. What does Hannah say? Vatitpelel Hannah v'tomar. How God Morish Sheol v'yal. God brings us down to the abyss, but then He can bring us up from the abyss, right? So that's what's going to happen to this Jew. So that's Rabbi Yoshua again proving his point that the Geulah is not dependent upon teshuvah, because here's this bezor nefesh, and yet God is going to redeem him. All right, let's continue. Yeah. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer. So again, this is the Yavne debate society. This debate is taking place in Yavne, in the land of Israel, between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, and the debate continues.
They know Pesukim cold.
I'm sorry?
They bring down Pesukim like it's the back of their hand.
Yes, they knew the Tanakh by heart. All these people, they knew the Tanakh by heart. That was the old generation. Yes. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer says, I'll bring you another pasuk. We're almost done with the debate, by the way. We're almost done with the debate. Rabbi Eliezer again is of the opinion, make teshuvah, you're going to get redeemed. Don't make teshuvah, it's a waste of time. He brings the pasuk, Im tashuv Yisrael ne'um Adonai, elai tashuv. Return to me, says God, because if you return to me, I will, the pasuk continues and says, it's not in the Gemara here, but the pasuk says, "V'im tasir shekusecha lepanai velo tanud." Remove like the abominations from your midst, and don't be afraid, don't be shaken, be strong, right? Because I will always be here waiting for you. There's never a situation where I'm not waiting for you, says God. Just return to me. You will be in my embrace, in my protection. I'm always here. Just return. This is what God is saying to the Jewish people. Amar Rabbi Yoshua, and that's it. This ends the debate. Okay, let me explain to you why this ends the debate, and then I'll read the pasuk. So the book of Daniel has many, many numbers in it, and many calculations in it, and some of them are really weird, and some of them have to do with, one of them has to do with the 6-day war, and I'm not going to get into now that specific calculation, but it has very specific times for when different events are going to happen to the Jewish people in terms of the redemption of the Jewish people. So that's what the book of Daniel is. The first half of the book of Daniel tells you the stories. The second half, let's say from chapter, 6, 7 maybe onwards, it's all about prophecies into the future. And it has all these calculations. And here's the last calculation in the book. And this is Rabbi Yoshua bringing it to show his position that when the time comes, the time comes. So it is as follows. Amar lo Rabbi Yoshua, I'm going to bring you a pasuk from the book of Daniel. The very last chapter of the book of Daniel says as follows. Va'eshma et ha'ish levush habadim. There was a malach. And this malach I saw the malach in my vision, and he was speaking to me. I heard him speaking. He was dressed in beautiful, white, shiny linen clothing. And he was above the river, because Daniel was by the river, and this malach appears by the river, and Daniel looks up and he sees the malach, and he says as follows. The malach does something shocking. Vayarim yemino usmolo l'shamayim. The malach lifts up both his arms towards the heaven, meaning he's making a shevu'ah. Now, when we make a shevu'ah, well, they don't do that anymore, but let's say, if they were doing real shevuot, you make a shevu'ah by holding a sefer Torah, right? Or Talmid Chacham can make a shevu'ah by holding the tefillin. So now, when you make a shevu'ah, like when the malach is making a shevu'ah, pointing towards the heaven, meaning he's saying, I'm making a shevu'ah in the name of the Almighty. He lifts up his right hand, he lifts up his left hand, and he's pointing to the Almighty, and this is what the malach is saying. Vayishabha, he actually makes a sacred vow. Be'he ha'olam. He makes a vow in the life of the universe. Who is the life of the universe? Hashem. And the vow was as follows. Ki le'mo'ed mo'adim b'chesi. There will come a time, a period of time, then 2 periods of time, b'chesi, and then chesi means, and then 1/2 of that. Uchalot napes yad am kodesh. And then when these periods of time pass, and the hand of the Jewish people, there's going to be those who want to smash the strength of Am Yisrael, but they're not going to be able to do it. It's going to be like it will look like they're about to smash our strength of the Jewish nation, or the Jewish people, or the Jewish state, and that's going to stop. Suddenly the Jewish people are going to rise up above the people who are trying to smash them. And when that happens, all the suffering of the Galut will come to an end. The Jewish people will rise up under the Mashiach, and they will be redeemed. Meaning, from this pasuk, it doesn't say a word about teshuvah, not teshuvah. It's saying there's going to be an attempt to destroy the Jewish people. The attempt will fail. The Jewish people will rise up, and they will become powerful. They will not be able to be brought down anymore. And when that happens, you're going to see the Mashiach is going to come, and the redemption will come. And the Gemara says, Veshatak Rabbi Eliezer.
Wow. So he agreed.
That's it. He agreed.
Sounds like yeah.
I mean, that's...
Sounds like fail.
Right, sounds like... Well, it does, doesn't it? Right. But the point is, Rabbi Eliezer agreed. You're right. Okay, thank God. But thank God for that. Because it's like we would be in big trouble. No, because like I'm saying, not all the Jews made teshuvah. I have to be honest. Like, we can't be like dishonest, fool ourselves. But he's saying that when the time comes, the time will come. So it's pretty optimistic. It's a nice message, right? Okay, yeah. All right, gentlemen. Like I said, we're getting close. What? We should all do teshuvah anyway for ourselves, for our families, because we want to enjoy life. I just want to say one thing: there's happiness, and there's true joy. And like people are always looking for like quick happiness, whether it's drugs, whether it's drinking, whether it's whatever, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't bring us joy. It brings us dopamine. Like maybe that's a word. But there's joy. And when a person is shomer Shabbat, when a person is shomer Torah Mitzvot, he has joy in his life. So my answer to you is make teshuvah, not you, but I'm saying people who don't. Follow the Torah because it'll bring joy to your life. Just enjoy the world. It's so beautiful. So follow the Torah and the Mitzvot because it will bring you joy. That's simple, like no other reason. I mean, the reason is, right, God and Har Sinai and the Berith, but I'm saying if for no other reason other than you just want to enjoy the beauty of Shabbat and the beauty of family and all the holiness and sanctity in the world, follow the Torah and the Mitzvot. Yes, I'm sorry.
Misha Baruch, thank you to Raymond, Janani, who sponsored tonight.
Thank you. Raymond, Rafael, רחמים בן אסתר, מלכה דעלמא יברך הטבע וזכה הטבע ויאריך ימיו בנעימים וכל אשר לפני יעשה ויצליח וכן יעשה ונאמר אמן. Thank you very much.